Edwin Fairfax Gray was born on March 15th, 1829, in Fredericksburg, Virginia, the son of William Fairfax and Millie Stone Gray. William Gray had served during the War of 1812. He first came to Texas in 1835 and attended the 1836 convention at Washington on the Brazos. His family came to Texas permanently in 1838, and in March 1839, he helped found Houston's first Episcopal church, now called Christ Church Cathedral. Edwin served as a midshipman in the Texas Navy, and after annexation, he served in the United States Navy. He received an appointment to the United States Naval Academy, graduating in June 1852. He resigned his commission in 1857, and on June 8th of that year, he married Rosalie Woodburn Taylor, daughter of Edward Willis Taylor and sister of Edward Ruthven Taylor, both of whom are also honored on this program. Edwin and Rosalie had 3 children between 1859 and 1868. Edwin practiced civil engineering and held the position of state engineer. In 1859, he designed a new building for Christ Church, which his father had founded 20 years earlier. Edwin entered the service at San Antonio on September 4th, 1861, as Major 3rd Texas Infantry under Colonel Philip N. Luckett, not found Texas Infantry's Hood's Brigade, as stated on the historical marker that was placed by the state of Texas in 1936. On February 27, 1862, he was detached to serve as acting assistant adjutant general under General Hamilton PB in San Antonio. Edwin was assigned to Houston in April 1863 and promoted to lieutenant colonel on May 1, 1863. He returned to the regiment in July 1863 and was stationed at Camp Lubbock Springs near Harrisburg, Texas, in August. In February 1864, he was commanding the regiment at Camp Slaughter, Texas. He resigned on March 16, 1865, for medical reasons. After the war, Edwin returned to Texas and resumed his civil engineering practice, often inspecting railroad construction as qualifications for land grants. On April 21, 1837, the Houston Light Guard Company was chartered, and Edwin was elected its first captain. His wife, Rosalie, died on April 17, 1874, and is buried here with this distinctive cross-shaped monument. Edwin continued to practice civil engineering through 1883 and died on August 19, 1884.
Edward Ruthven Taylor was born on August the 22nd, 1845, in Independence, Washington County, Republic of Texas, the fourth of 5 children of Edward Willis Taylor and Caroline Betsy Porter Taylor. The family moved to Houston in 1848. In 1859, Edward left Houston to attend Williston Seminary in East Hampton, Massachusetts. He completed the first 2 years of a 3-year classical curriculum at Williston before returning to Houston to join Confederate States Army. Edward enlisted in Houston on May 14, 1862, in Company D, Cavalry Battalion, Walls, Texas Legion, with a $140 horse and $35 of equipment. He served with the company through the surrender of Vicksburg on July 4, 1863, and was paroled on July 9, 1863. A muster roll dated May through June 1864, last on record, shows Edward on duty in the Trans Mississippi Department, which included Texas. In May of 1864, his father wrote to General Magruder stating that his son had been sick since the capitulation of Vicksburg, but was now recovered and eager to again meet the enemy. He asked that Magruder consider a lieutenancy in the artillery for his son and suggests that Edward might serve with his first cousin, Lieutenant Alex P. Root of Nichols Light Battery. However, no surviving records indicate that any action was taken on this request. Edward fully recovered and lived in a common law marriage for nearly 40 years with Ann George, whose name changed to Ann Taylor in 1890. Ann was his father's former slave. They moved to Pierce Junction, which was then a rural area 8 miles from downtown Houston and is now about 2 miles south of NRG Stadium. With them in 1870 on the 640-acre farm, which Edward named Myrtle Farm, were their 3-month-old mulatto daughter, Pinky, and two black boys, Richard Bray, age 12, and Bishop George, age 7. Edward and Ann had 8 children, but 2 died in childhood. Their children, Pinky Elizabeth, Major Julius, Samuel, Nettie Caroline, William Edward, and Bert, were among the first African Americans in Texas to receive a formal college education. Ann died on July 26, 1909, and is buried on the original homestead, today known as E.R. and Ann Taylor Park in Houston, Texas. Edward was a former rancher and active member of the Cattle Raisers Association of Texas in Fort Worth. Oil was discovered on the farm, and Edward signed the first oil and gas lease with Gulf Production Company on May 16, 1916. Edward was a member of the Dick Dowling Camp 197, United Confederate Veterans. He died in Pierce Junction on July 19, 1924. His older sister Rosalie married Lieutenant Colonel Edwin Fairfax Gray.
Edward Willis Taylor was born on June 14, 1814, in New Hampshire. He married Carolyn Betsy Porter in Wilmington, Delaware, late in 1836. In May 1839, Edward W. Taylor and his brother Horace D. Taylor applied for land grants in Washington County, Republic of Texas. His brothers-in-law, John B. Porter and John Bancroft Root, applied for land grants in Washington County in September of the same year. Edward and Caroline had three daughters, Rosalie Woodburn Taylor Gray, Cora Wilbur Taylor Moore, and Elizabeth Porter Taylor Robertson, and 2 sons, Henry Willis Taylor and Edward Ruthven Taylor. A.S. Ruthven, Deputy Grand Master of Ancient Free and Accepted Masons for the Grand Lodge of the Republic of Texas, nominated and appointed Edward Willis Taylor, Past Master of Milam Lodge Number 11, AF and AM, as Deputy Grand Master on February 20th, 1846, just one day after Texas became a state, and Ruthven Commandery Number 2, Knights Templar. He served in all offices several times, including Grand Master. Edward donated the first building to establish Baylor College in Independence, Texas, purchased by Edward Taylor and John Root at a tax sale. He served on the Board of Trustees of Baylor College as board secretary until 1848. Edward was appointed captain and acting quartermaster, 16th Battalion, Texas State Troops in September of 1861. He was named Chief Quartermaster, General Staff Department, Texas State Troops on September 16, 1863, by order of General Magruder. He was transferred from state troops to Confederate States Army on November 1, 1863, and served as Chief Bureau of Clothing and Equipage at Houston from January 18, 1864 until January 7, 1865. In February 1865, he was placed in command of a depot at Houston for the manufacture of clothing, camp, and garrison equipment. He was paroled at Houston on June 24, 1865. In 1877, Edward instituted the first public school system in Houston. He served as president of the first school board, working continuously with the school system for the rest of his life. Other members of his family who served the Confederacy include his son, Edward Ruthven Taylor, his son-in-law, Edwin Fairfax Gray, and his nephew, Alexander Porter Root.